All right, so today we are going to study about unit 7, right? And this unit is from paper 1. So under unit 7 we have, and this is, yes, of course, this is what? This is pedagogy, right? So here we have assessment of students' performance. So assessment means what? Assessment means finding out, all right? Finding out how much the students have progressed, what are the feedbacks we can keep, whether remedial teachings are required or not, what are the grounds on which the students needs improvement. So overall development of the child is tested through assessment. All right, so there are different types of assessment like summative assessment and formative assessment. These are very common, and you'll be getting many questions in examination, in aptitude examination, from this summative and formative assessment. So you should know the basic difference between the two. Then school-based assessment, what are the different assessment we do in school. Then assessment for learning and assessment of learning. So these are two important terms. Again, in one we have assessment for learning, assessment for for learning, and in another one we have assessment of learning. What are the assessment of learning? Now techniques and tools of school-based assessment and activity-based assessment. Now what are the different techniques we are going to use in order to make these assessments? Right, now different types of questions. Now what are the different types of questions which can be asked from the students in order to assess them? Assessment and remedial teaching. So remedial teaching means teaching again. What are the shortcomings of the students? What are the areas of improvement? So all these are taken into account. Right, now let us see one by one. First of all, let us see summative assessment and formative assessment. So whenever we hear these two terms, what do we understand? So summative assessment, let me read here. You see, this type of assessment is typically used to evaluate a student's learning at the end of a specific period, such as a semester or a school year. It provides a summary or a summary judgment of students' overall performance. Examples include final exams, standardized tests, or end of term projects. See here, what does it mean? Summative assessment means sum of everything, right? Sum of everything. So here examples are given like a final exams. What is final exam? Final exam or annual examination, right? Which comes after the end of the year. It used to be before. Of course, these days semester system is practiced, right? But even in semester system, we have first semester in degree level, second semester, third semester, fourth semester, fifth semester, sixth semester. And when we do B.Ed, we have first, second, third, fourth semesters, right? So, before we used to do the assessment of the students annually, and now we do it quarterly, right? So after every 6 months, the assessment is done. Half yearly, I mean. So now what happens? See, the students are observed throughout the tenure of their study, right? So here what happens? Is that what have the students understood, what the students have learned, and like here the exams are conducted. All right, exams are conducted. So whatever the marks they are scoring, whatever the progress they have made, we can understand only by looking at the marks of the students, right? So whenever you are asked about the example of what do you understand by summative assessment, you should be able to tell them that this is a type of assessment which is carried out at the end of a session, be it at the end of semester or at the end of the year. All right, so all these yearly or quarterly or half yearly examination is termed as summative assessment at the end of the session. Remember this term, at the end of the session. Right, now formative assessment, what do we understand by formative assessment? Formative assessments are conducted during the learning process to provide feedback to both students and the teachers. They are not meant to be graded but to help identify areas for improvement. Example include quizzes, peer reviews, and classroom discussions. See, this is very different from summative assessment. Now in what way this is very different from summative assessment? So formative assessment is a type of assessment which is carried out during the session, right? So during the learning process. And this formative assessment do not provide feedback or a grading system to the students only. These provides feedback to the teachers as well, right? A teacher, by doing formative assessment, can understand what are his shortcomings, what are the feedbacks, what are the areas of improvement, what type of teaching aids the teacher needs to use. So all these a teacher understands by formative assessment of himself or herself, right? And here the grading system is not used for the students. So remember this term, grading system. In summative assessment, as you know, we get a progress report, right? Mark sheets we get. But in formative assessment, we do not get it. In summative, we get mark sheets and all, but in formative, we do not get. So here, no grading system is taken into account, all right? And here, we do not grade the students. We identify like what are the shortcomings, what are the problems, what are the limitations they are having, so that we try to find out here. And how do we find out? What is the process of finding out what are the shortcomings of the students? So we find it out by using or following certain type of activities or certain type of discussions. Like suppose in class test, we will take the class, right? So class tests are taken when? These are taken during the session, right? Before the end of the session, class tests are taken. Then surprise tests are taken, then different type of activities are given, then projects are given, assignments are given to the students, group activities conducted, then hands-on trainings are conducted, then group discussion is organized, then quiz competition is organized, debate competition is organized, extempore speech is organized. So all these help in what? They help in building up our formative assessment. So all right, so it helps us to understand the child's area of improvement, which area needs to be improved. All right, now let us see the second one, that is school-based assessment. So this school-based assessment may not be shown to you as school-based assessment, it may be shown to you as SBA. So you should be able to recognize that SBA refer to school-based assessment. Now what is school-based assessment? So school-based assessment refers to assessment that are developed and conducted by individual schools or teachers rather than external standardized tests. This allows educators to tailor assessments to their curriculum and students. Example of SBA might include class presentations, research projects, or portfolios. Now see, by the term itself, by the name of the term itself, you will understand that school-based assessment means where? Outside the school? No, it will be inside the school. So inside the school, whatever assessment takes place, those are known as school-based assessment. Here no externals are involved. All right, in school-based, suppose we are having science examination, so we are having science examination, and in science practicals, what happens? The externals, they come from different schools, right? So in school-based assessment, this is not an example of school-based assessment. So here no externals are involved. All right, no externals are involved here. No externals are involved. Now these allows educators to tailor assessment to their curriculum and curriculum, right? Now example of SBA might be presentation, class presentation. A student might be asked to represent in the class. All right, he or she might be given a project to do, or the student's portfolio should be made. So this is how school-based assessment is done. Since we are B.Ed teachers, we are D.Ed teachers, we understand very well what do we mean by portfolios, right? We know it very well. Now let us see assessment for learning and assessment of learning. See, these are two very different and important terms. Assessment for learning, FOR4, and assessment of learning. So you should be able to recognize these in MCQ. What means for and what means of. Let us see assessment for learning. So this is also known as formative assessment. See again now. Assessment for learning is also known as formative assessment. By the term itself, you will understand formative for formative, right? For formative. So assessment for learning is also known as formative assessment. It is designed to inform instructions. For instance, a teacher might use a pop quiz to gauge how well students understand a new topic. Based on the results, the teacher can adjust their teachings to address areas where students are struggling. So here what happens, you know, an example can be when we are taking classes. What do? We once we finish to explain the topic, immediately we ask questions, right, from the students, that whether they understood or not, what they did not understand or what they understood. So we want to know, we engage them, right, because teaching is a child-centered activity, so we have to involve the child, right? Teaching should not be teacher-centered, it should be child-centered, right? So this is also a formative assessment, which means a normal classroom environment you can think of when you are dealing with assessment for learning, right? And once you finish the topic explaining, then you ask the students if they are able to answer it. You know that they understood. If they are not able to understood, if they are not able to answer it, then you understand they need more clarification, or remedial teachings may need to be conducted, right? Now let us see base assessment of learning. This is often referred to as summative assessment. See, these two are the parts of formative and summative assessment only. So you try to remember, when you say assessment for learning, it will be formative. Assessment of learning, it will be summative. It aims to measure what students have learned at the end of a unit, course, or program. Example include final exam, standardized test, or graduation project. See, this is what we have already learned in summative assessment, right? So this is very easy, very simple. So whenever you are asked about assessment of learning, you try to understand that it has something to do with summative assessment. So when a summative assessment is done, it is done at the end of a program. Suppose BSc, graduation, or DLED or B.Ed, the exams are conducted at the end of the semester, the exams are conducted at the end of the year. So those are example of summative assessment, right? Final exams, it is given here. So then different type of standardized tests or graduation projects. So you understood this, right? Now let us see techniques and tools of SBA and activity-based assessment. What does it mean? It means what are the different techniques, what are the different ways, what are the different methods we are going to use, and what are the different tools, what are the different study materials, what are the different teaching aids we are going to use, right, in our school-based assessment. And activity-based assessment, how can we assess the students by activities? So that also we should be looking here. All right, now SBA techniques. First let us understand what are the techniques involved. These can include written tests, oral exams, presentations, projects, and practical demonstrations. Tools for SBA may include rubrics, checklists, and self-assessment forms. See, very clearly it is said here that school-based assessment techniques includes what? It includes written test. We can assess the students through written test, how much they can score, how well they can write, how can they represent themselves, right? Then oral examinations for smaller classes. For smaller classes, we do not need to take the written test, we can do it orally, right? Then presentations for bigger classes, you can ask them to present, right, in front of the whole class. You can ask them to present the topic in a in a fun way, you know, in an engaging way. Then different projects also can be given to the students to complete, and through projects the students, they get to learn a lot of things. And practical demonstration, so in science, in maths, in social science also, we can do, or we can show what the students have understood or not by performing certain activities or practicals, right? Tools for SBA may include, now what are the different tools we can use for school-based assessment? It includes rubrics, then it includes checklists and self-assessment forms. So these are the three things given here. Now activity-based assessment, these involves assessing students through activities like group discussions, experiments, field trips, or creative projects. Tools can include observations, checklist, peer evaluation, and teacher feedback. Now activity-based assessment, see, by the word activity itself you understand that it has something to do with involvement of groups, right? Involvement of groups of students, the relationship between the teachers and the students, the group discussions, right, the peer discussions. So it includes. Now activity-based assessments can be conducted through experiment, different types of experiments. Then we can take out the children for field trips, we can take them to museums, we can take them to zoos, right? We can take them to to the parks, and we can show them certain things related to their studies, right? We can take them to the places of historical importance, right? We can take them and we can give them some creative projects. As B.Ed and D.El.Ed professionals, you know very much what is creative expression, right? So we had one paper where we have to do creative art, right? We did that. Now number 5, different types of questions. Now see, for the assessment of the students, there can be different type of questions. These also we have already learned in our professional course, that is B.Ed and D.El.Ed, right? Multiple choice. Students choose the correct answer from a list of options. This is very simple. You understand that 4 options or 3 options are given, and from there the student is supposed to take one correct option only, right? Then short answer. Students provide brief responses to questions. Suppose, let me give an example for multiple choice question. For multiple choice question, it can be like what example should I give? Let me think of an example. We can say that all right, let me give you the example of primary colors. All right, primary colors. So suppose in the option it is given yellow, black and white. Which among these is a primary color? Or you can also add 4 option there, that is none of the above. So the students will choose accordingly whichever he or she thinks is correct. Now short answer type question. Suppose you are asking what is a cell? So the student will write in short, a cell is the structural and functional unit of life, right? Then essay type question, you understand by the word itself that essay means it will be very long descriptive type of questions, right? So these type of questions also help in the assessment of the students. Now students determine accuracy of statements. We give, for smaller classes especially, we give true false, right? Whether the statement is true or whether the statement is false. What does it check? It checks the student's accuracy, how accurately the student have understood that concept. Then matching, match the following, column A with column B, column A with column B, right? That also we do. Then fill in the blanks. Of course, students complete sentences or paragraphs with missing information. So as teachers, whenever we make question paper, we take into account all these factors, right? While making question papers, we try to give them short answer type questions, very short answer type questions, multiple choice questions, essay type questions, true, false, matching, match the followings, fill in the blanks, all these, right? Now let us see assessment and remedial. All right, so now let us see assessment and remedial. So we have already seen what does assessment means. Assessment means assessing or finding out what are the shortcomings, what are the areas of improvement, right? And remedial means to do it again, right? Assessment and remedial go hand in hand, which means they both are correlated. Assessment and remedials are both correlated. They go hand in hand with one another. After conducting assessment, teachers can identify areas where students are struggling. See, of course, without assessment, how are we going to know which students are weak, which students are smart, which students need improvement? We will never know until and unless we do the assessment. See, whenever we go to a doctor, what do the doctors do? The doctors, they ask us, right, what are the symptoms you are having? We say we are having headache, we are feeling cold. Then the doctor tries to analyze and doctor tries to understand that this person is suffering from fever, right? Fever. Then according to whatever the symptoms we are telling the doctor tries to give us the medicines, prescribe the medicines, or if needed to carry out certain tests, he gives us, right? So this is the same way. If we do not know the problem of the students, how are we going to give them the solution? So this is the way of assessment by which we can help the students. So in a class, there are different students from different backgrounds, right? Some of them weak in studies, some of them average in studies, some of them very weak in studies, some of them brilliant in studies, some of them very creative, some of them very good sports person, some of them very good at singing, at dancing, right? So all these characters needs to be taken into account while we teach in the class, because all the students are not coming from the same background, right? Remedial measures are then taken to help students improve those areas. Of course, suppose if we have taught certain topics in the class, 50% of the students understood, 50% they did not understand. So what we can do, we can ask those 50% of the students to stay back after the class, and we can do remedial teachings for them, right? For example, if an assessment reveals that many students are struggling with math, the teacher may provide extra math lessons or resources to help them catch up. Of course, this is what just now I said. Suppose the students is having problem in understanding mathematics, the teacher and the students both can take extra effort, they can take extra time, and they can practice maths, or they can learn maths in after the school or before the school. So however they are, they according to their convenience, right? But they have to do extra labor in order to understand that particular subject. Now, assessment is a critical part of education process, as it helps both students and teachers gauge progress and make necessary adjustment for improvement learning outcomes. It's important to use combination of summative and formative assessment to get a holistic view of a student's performance and provide appropriate support when needed. See, now assessment is very important. Without assessment, how are we going to find out who is lacking what, who is having what problem, which students is having what type of shortcomings? We will never know, right? So in order to know all these, we need assessment. All right, assessment, which becomes the heart of the education system, because it is very, very important. And see, this assessment does not mean that it is only for the students, it is for both the teacher as well as the students. If the students are doing well, which means the teachers are automatically doing well. And if the students are not able to do well, maximum, of course, maximum students are not able to do well, it means that the teacher is also not able to do well, right? So these things needs to be taken into account. And once you find out the problem, that this is the problem, that is the problem, taking the feedbacks, you should work on it, and you should carry out you should change your strategies, you should change your teaching aids, you should change your whatever the techniques you are using. Then you can take another strategies, right? Suppose you teach the students only in the class, then you should take them outside, you should show them certain practicals, right? You should engage them in certain type of activities, you should engage them in certain types of group discussions. So as teachers, we should always keep inspiring our students in different ways possible, right? So that's why it says it's important to use combination of summative and formative assessment. That's why it does not mean that we will have one exam at the end of the year. Of course we have that, but throughout the year we are conducting class test, we are conducting mock test, we are conducting oral test, verbal test, right? So different types of tests we are conducting in order to check the students' progress, and accordingly we are taking the steps and changing our strategies if needed, right? So this is how, like, it says that assessment and remediation goes hand in hand. So like this formative and summative assessment also goes hand in hand with one another, though they are very different, but they have the same purpose of making progress in students' life as well as the teachers' life, right? So this was all in this unit of what was the unit? The unit assessment of students' performance. So this was the unit from paper 1. This was the unit from paper 1, unit 7, right? Child development and pedagogy. So this is according to the syllabus of 2023. So thank you. I hope you understood this very well. If any questions, anything, please ask.